Hi, everyone. Is gamification of awareness training really just letting employees play games? We'll find out today. Welcome to the 60-second live security awareness forum, cybersecurity awareness forum for September 24th, 2025. Today, we're exploring the topic of using gamification to drive real employee behavior change. I'm Scott Wright, your host and CEO of ClickArmor. And Today, our panel is going to be a lot of fun. I think lots of engaged people and lots of engaged people in the chat too. So, um, a few quick notes though before I start. If you haven't already, please type in the chat where you're coming from around the world. We'd love to hear what international representation we have, but also it gives you a little bit of practice entering stuff in the chat so you're comfortable with that. We do want you to participate as much as possible. So the Cybersecurity Awareness Forum, or CSAF as I call it, is an open collaboration group for anybody who's passionate about security awareness or human risk. And if you're an awareness manager, a security professional, or even a business manager who's just concerned about cybersecurity and human vulnerability, then you're in the right place. So I'm going to actually ask our panelists to do a 30 to 60-second intro of themselves, their name, their position, and generally what they are passionate about and why they're here. So I'll go around the circle here. We'll start with Michaela, and go ahead, Michaela.
Hi, thank you very much for that, Scott. It's good to be back here. My name is Michaela Leovorg, and I'm the founder of Cybersecurity Consulting here in the UK. And we are all about how we can actually use gamification and techniques to make learning more enjoyable with cybersecurity. And we've got a few things on the burner, which I won't go into right now. But yeah, just looking forward to today and hearing what everyone's got to say.
Excellent. Thanks for joining us again, Michaela. It's good to have you back. Mitchell, would you like to go next?
Sure. Thanks, Scott. Good day to everybody. I'm Mitchell Kowalski, currently looking for opportunities. But aside from that, security awareness and Scott and I joined because of this passion that I have speaking to people and understanding better ways to communicate and get them to have security as second nature, right? And be part of the vernacular, no matter what position that they have within an organization. Gamification is that natural growth, right? And as things have changed from just becoming a requirement and people being, integrated as like a 30-minute, right? Click on review to as it's developed and as things have changed. So looking forward to talking this afternoon.
Great. Thanks. Good to have you here, Mitchell. And Shamila, would you like to go next?
Yes, thanks for having me again, Scott. I am Cemile Küçük. I'm an AI governance and data protection professional. I live in Istanbul, Turkey, but I work internationally. I'm a lawyer and a techie at the same time. Yeah, that's all from my side.
Excellent. Good to have you back again. And Theo, would you like to go next?
Yes, hi Scott, and thank you for the invitation. My name is Theo Zafirakos. I've spent most of my adult life in cybersecurity, so it's no longer just a profession, it's also a passion. The last 8 years, I've worked as an independent consultant, working organizations to improve their cybersecurity programs with a focus on cybersecurity awareness programs. I've helped over 300 organizations in the last 8 years implement cybersecurity awareness programs, including gamification.
Excellent. Good to have you here again. And once again, Fleetus. We haven't seen you in a couple of months, I guess.
Yeah, it's been a little bit.
You've been busy looking for a new job, I guess.
Yeah, so I was busy this summer, but Fleet posted, for those who don't know, 20-year vet between IT security, done a little bit of everything, always come back to human-centric security. Is why I enjoyed being part of this panel and understanding that we need to spend more time on people and the people process and technology. So excited to be here today.
That's great. And as I said, I'm Scott Wright, the CEO of ClickArmor, who sponsors these sessions. And I'll tell you a little bit more about ClickArmor in a minute. But for now, I'm going to go to my slides. I usually start with a little bit of context about the topic that we're going to go into. And this is just my perspective. Feel free to comment or dispute or question anything that I say here. But I'd like to start by just saying, what is gamification? Because I hear a lot of different views from people, some positive, some not so positive, and some people actually are talking about different things than what I tend to think of when I'm thinking of using gamification in a cybersecurity sense. So when we look at what gamification really is in this context, I look at it in a few different ways. One is what's called game-based learning, and that is the idea of using games to learn, and that can be very useful in certain areas. I'll talk about a couple of examples of that in a second. Then there's what I would call gamified business processes, where you're using key performance indicators or outcomes to reward behaviors that you actually want to have change in the organization. And that's a very valid purpose for using gamification as well. And then there's gamified learning, which is the area that I sort of specialize in. And it's using psychological drivers or game mechanics within a learning environment to motivate humans to learn, practice, and improve their skills. So I'll just give a few examples. So for game-based learning, there is, the concept of these games that you can use. Typically, there are off-the-shelf things that you can either take their own content, or sometimes you can create your own content. So Prodigy, the math game, a lot of people use that as a good example of game-based learning. You're learning as you play the game, and it's pretty much all just that experience of playing the challenges in order to learn. And then there is Kahoot, which is a configurable sort of competitive way of setting up learning quizzes. And then there's a Minecraft Education Edition, where you can have people building in the classroom, for example, to explore history, science, math, etc. And then the gamified business processes are things that you might see in some of these examples, Salesforce Trailhead, basically trying to get people to do some things and giving them some rewards along the way. As opposed to necessarily learning a particular thing, you're actually aiming for an outcome, really, and hoping that people learn from that. So there are a few examples here. And then in gamified learning, there are things like Duolingo you've probably seen, where you use an app that uses different types of challenges that are fun and provide, immediate feedback and have a point system and leaderboard and achievements, etc. And the whole point of that is to learn something. So it's a little bit more purpose directed, but you can actually use it for many different types of things. So those are different ways that I look at gamification within learning as it relates to cybersecurity. So with that, I'm going to start a poll, and if you've been with us before, you'll know that we do have 3 polls, usually between our panel questions, and this will just help us to understand a little bit more about our audience's opinions and experiences. So in our first poll question, which I think should be running now, which gamification elements do you feel would be most effective for increasing employee participation in cybersecurity training? And there are a range of things: points and scoring systems, badges or achievements, team competitions, storytelling, scenarios. I made this one open so you can select any of these that you want, that you feel have been useful or could be useful. And in some of the other poll questions, I'll make you select just the one most important answer that you'll see there. So I'm going to let that run for now. And I'll start with our first open poll question. And the idea here is to ask a question that our panelists can sort of just expand on from their own experience and opinions, and get some discussion going with the audience as well, to see how people react to those comments. So first open question for the panel is, what are the most effective forms of gamification that you've used? For example, points, badges, competitions, and how they influence employee participation in cybersecurity training or cybersecurity behavior. So Theo mentioned that he's been doing some of this stuff for quite a while, so I'm going to let him start things off.
Yes, thank you, Scott. Some of the most effective mechanisms will not be a surprise to everyone, is monetary rewards. Unfortunately, everybody likes a gift card, so those tend to work very well, but not every organization has the capacity or the budget to do that. In other cases, what works very well is recognition of top performers in some way, shape, or form. It could be lunch with the senior director or a leader. It could be a recognition in a wall of fame within the organization of who is doing the most for preventing an organization. And in another organization, I had seen something that worked really well is badges that came in the form of stickers that came into the three categories of gold, silver, and bronze, where employees could either stick in their cubicle or on the laptop to demonstrate some high-level expertise. And those became the pride and joy of every employee because they could proudly show that they've achieved a certain level of competence in cybersecurity.
That's excellent. I'm going to then ask Fleetus if you want to take a shot at answering this.
Yeah, so most of the time it's the points based, so it's the challenge. So as we see like a poll where you instantly have to answer quickly, to climb the leaderboard, challenges, and then somewhere to Theo giving some kind of badge, give them something that they can take, either swag. Most companies can't give gift cards due to regulatory requirements, at least here in the US. So just making sure that there's opportunity, and then the team competition. Everyone likes to say my team has done this or this department's better, and so you get a ranking and call outs. Then adding on to that is getting the shout outs from the C level. So have your CISO, CSO, or someone else broadcast in their newsletter, their fireside chats, something similar that comes out of the gamification platform.
Sounds good. Jamil?
I believe it would depend on the department, the targeted department. It's so hard for me to imagine cybersecurity without AI right now. So if I need to give some examples, for example, we think about AI-powered cyber threat. For example, a simple one, a prompt injection. Maybe we can create two teams, the red team and the blue team. While red team try to exploit the AI system, blue team try to build the guardrails. So these two teams will be compete against each other. It can drive these teams, I think, but maybe for the executives, it would be different. It would be something like racing against the clock. So they need to have these decisions, high-stake decisions in a short time, and they can learn without getting the real consequences like financial, reputational, or regulatory consequences maybe. So I think it would depend on the department we are targeting, the training targets, which department.
That's good. Actually, it makes me think as well. There's sometimes a reason why you can dig into a role, right? So you mentioned, using red team, blue team. Not everybody in the organization is in that position, but you can create gamified competitions for different roles that would be appropriate and more relevant than just a one size fits all. So I think that's great examples. I'll let Michaela go next, and then Mitchell.
Right, thanks, Scott. Some good ones there already. I particularly like Samil's emphasis on, the against the clock, which, sort of immediately gets people that sort of stress level and engagement level straight away. But yeah, for me, I would say I have a bit of a peeve about points, badges, and leaderboards. And so I like to avoid them wherever possible. For me, I find the most sort of effective thing is using narrative and story. So presenting some scenarios in which, there's people that they're familiar with as part of that, and then working through that scenario. So not quite full simulation, but certainly there's something that they kind of uncover the learning as they explore. And the other thing I would say about it is we do try and design specifically for different learning personas with the behaviors. So that's something else I just wanted to mention here as well.
Excellent. And last but not least, Mitchell.
No, thank you. One of the things at where I was previously that was very effective was the use of badges, especially during the execution of the actual security training. So the badges were actually part of people's emails. So you could see who was taking it, when it was done. It might stir people to go, oh, I've got to get it done also. but then also it was a reminder as the year goes by or as months go by that it was a phishing, like we took phishing or we did something else about, passwords or, again, encryption or whatever the topic was now in the form of a badge on emails for employees to see from each other and sort of trigger that memory. The other thing that I want to comment on is something that Fleet has said, which I think is very good. When you mentioned about, in the fireside chat or an executive, right, mentioning people's names, because I think that's also, again, as we've talked about from a security awareness perspective, you always want to have executive support. When they're mentioning it, then people are realizing that how important it is, right? And it gets their attention going. So I thought that was a great comment that Fleet has made.
Thanks very much. And I guess just to wrap things up for myself, I agree with everything that people said. There's one thing I'll point out here too, is it's a safe space for people to have disagreements, and sometimes we'll disagree on different things. One of the things that, Michaela knows, I'm a gamification guy, and points are part of that. So I would say, there are times when points are useful, and sometimes I can understand why they can be a problem or be overused for sure. So, we can explore different ways that we see value in those things, but I totally understand Michaela's point of view as well. So I mentioned I was going to do a check of the roundtable before we move on to other things and sort of see where people are coming from. I forgot to do that. So I'm just going to say hello to the people from Victoria, BC, North Carolina, Ohio, Toronto, where else? UK, obviously, Columbus, Ohio, North Carolina again, Ottawa, that's where I am, and Washington State, Pennsylvania, Tampa, Florida, Sarasota. And I think we have somebody here from Istanbul. I heard. So, yeah, thanks very much for your patience there on me getting around to that.
Most cybersecurity training puts people to sleep. Literally. Death by PowerPoint results from slides and lengthy videos that employees click through just to check a box. But here's the reason why it happens. When training is boring, people don't engage enough to remember and learn. They forget within days. And worse, they develop bad security habits because the lessons never stuck. Your employees face real cyber threats every single day. They need training that engages their minds and builds muscle memory for making smart security choices. That's why smart companies are moving beyond boring slideshows to interactive, gamified learning that actually works. If you've had a recent incident from poor employee decisions or want to avoid the next one, it's time to wake up your employees with ClickArmor cybersecurity training. Visit clickarmor.ca to see how interactive, gamified learning changes everything.
Next, I'm going to go to our next poll. So I'll end the previous one and we'll go to our next poll, which should be, which primary behavior changes would you realistically aim to achieve as the most important result of gamified cybersecurity training? So we're looking specifically at cyber training right now, and I chose to just focus on that because that's where most of our forum comes from. There may be people here who are instructional designers in general. So just wanted to let them know why we're focusing so much on that. But if you look at cybersecurity awareness in general, we think that, there could be some ultimate outcomes that we're really hoping to get if we're going to use gamification. What is it that we actually think will be the benefit? All right. So I'm going to set that one off for people to start answering that poll, and we'll review the polls once we finish all of our questions. But I'm going to go through the order a little differently so that people whose opinions got upstaged or stole their thunder in the last round, I'll go in the reverse order this time. So I'll start with Mitchell, and then Michaela, then Jamil, and then Fleetus and Theo. So Mitchell, go ahead.
Yeah. So again, organizations with minimal time, budget seems to be everybody, right? Even as we were chatting beforehand, if everybody was ready for Cybersecurity Awareness Month. What we did, right, with budget is we just limited, we were trying to do some of the rewards, right? Financial rewards. So we knew that we wanted to give out, let's say, a $25 gift card. Everybody who was successful, everybody who completed their training was eligible, and then we would have a drawing, and it was then announced. So it's just being creative with what budget you have and what you're able to do. As I said, the badges doesn't cost anything, right? Those are things that you can put into your email. So there's those are a couple ways, and I'll let everybody else talk to other ways that they've implemented it.
Sounds good. I was going to let Michaela go next anyway, and she's got something to share. So I'm going to stop. Did you want me to stop sharing and you can share, Michaela?
No,
Or do you just
no.
want to share a resource in the chat?
I'll just put it in the chat. That's
Okay,
fine.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, certainly over here, many of the organisations I've worked with, thinking about public sector, charities, NHS, etc., just don't have the budgets that a lot of the private sector organisations do. So you're always trying to figure out what can you do with pretty much nothing. And there's lots of different techniques that we've used over the years that we've found effective. And I think one of, not necessarily the most effective one, but one that sticks in my mind was where we had like these 10 behaviors as our like code, InfoSec code, and staff, we had competition where they could get together in their groups and create their own video story around how, what that behavior is and what it looks like. And we actually got really good engagement with that. I was surprised at how creative some people were. So that's another thing that you can do. It doesn't cost anything because, you're just sort of rewarding by publishing, the videos at the end of it, and everyone's sort of commenting on each other's. So really leaning into that sort of social learning part, so I can't speak, side of things is very good, I think. And yeah, I would drop a resource in the chat for you, which is just some of the ways that we've done cybersecurity awareness on a budget. So feel free to grab that. Thank you.
Excellent. And I'll go next to Jamila.
I believe even small additions can gamify training. For example, if you have already some training module in your organization, you can add mini weekly quizzes and then create a leadership board that will gamify it. Employees try to be on the top. So actually, without a huge budget, you can gamify your sources that are already existed in your organizations, or of course the recognition is the most.
Oh, we lost a bit of the audio, I think, from Jamila. Recognition she was mentioning, I think. Well, if she comes back, we'll let her finish that thought. But I guess Theo, I'll let you go for now.
All right, so to implement the gamification, you have to start first with looking at your platform that you're using, including ClickArmor, but most of your awareness platforms do offer some kind of gamification mechanism. So if you have them, leverage them because they'll facilitate the accumulation and the tracking of points and the scoring system. If you do not have a platform that does that and you want to do gamification outside your awareness platform, then look at data that you could collect to track not only successful completion, but participation. Simply by doing the course, you'll be entered to complete, as part of the raffle for pizza day, right? So there's a lot of information that you could gather from your awareness platform and the other activities to start tracking and providing some kind of rewards. As Michaela said, storytelling is very important and very good. People could associate with real life stories. An organization was giving rewards to individuals who had fallen victims to a cybersecurity attack and were willing to go up in front of an audience and talk about their experience. So that was a real life story that makes everybody think.
Yeah, that's excellent. Great thoughts there, Theo. And we'll let Jamila come back. I think she's back. You were mentioning something about mini weekly quizzes, and I don't know if you had finished your thoughts yet.
Yeah, sorry for that. It seems my internet connection is not that stable. I was just talking about recognition, giving recognition to the employees. Even without budget, you can just take the people in the leadership board and announce them in your internal channels in your organization.
Yeah, that's great. Good idea. And then Fleetus, I think, would be the last
I'm
one.
going to come at this with a combination of Michaela and some others. I've done workshops on this, and this is coming from my security operation days. and I've mentioned this before, so Scott will probably recognize some of it, but is implementing tabletops and capture the flag events. So have a tabletop where you bring in business leaders and give them roles. Ask them what they would do in the situation to help gamify what it's like to do an incident response from the SOC and IR team. Eventually, you can do those low budget. You pick a line of business, you get with their senior leader, and you give them a role. And the role could be their role. You can have them act as the CFO, you can have them act as the cybersecurity leader, or you can do it from a business point of view. What would you do if I social engineered you? And you give them the narrative of being social engineered and you share an example. For the capture the flag, it's easy. You've already got policies and procedures. You've already got stuff planned in your environment. You just send out a weekly, daily, or hourly challenge to the people who involve and tell them to go find the flag and then submit it. And you give them points and you can give them a coin at the end of it if you choose to do the coins like a traditional CTF.
Awesome. All great ideas, I think. And for people who have little limited resources, it's good timing to learn about these things because you may actually be able to use them within your Security Awareness Month activities. So that's cool as well. I'm going to share my screen once more and get into, let's see. Let me know if you can see this. There we go. Next poll is, what's the biggest challenge your organization would face when implementing gamification in security awareness training? You may or may not be planning to, but looking at your organization, what do you think would be the biggest challenge in implementing this? And the third open question for the panel is, how can you measure this? This is that's not the question I wanted to ask, does it? I'm on the wrong put my wrong question in. Anybody else have a copy of what it was that was supposed to be that third question? That's embarrassing. What was the question? How do you measure the impact of gamification on knowledge retention, behavior change, or reduction in real incidents, and what pitfalls should be avoided? Thank you very much, Michaela. I appreciate that. I'm going to grab that and see if I can paste it into the slide, and then everybody will be able to see that. So one sec. Here we go. There we are. Just for our reference to understand what it is we're actually discussing here in this question. So this time I'll switch it back to the original order that we had, which was, see if I can find it, was Theo, then Fleetus, then Jamil, Michaela, and then Mitchell. So Theo, would you like to start with that one?
And that question applies to just a non-gamified cybersecurity awareness program. The question comes up very often: how do we justify that awareness program costs, effort, and is it working? First, look at what your program is aiming to do and what is the focus. So your program should focus more on the behaviors that you want to modify and a bit less on the technology. Right? And then you look at your program itself. Is it focusing on the behaviors that I want my users to adopt? Having a gamified program also in place moves away from punishing consequences for not completing your training or failing your phishing to a reward mechanism where you do the right thing, you complete the courses, we recognize that. So it becomes, it provides a different incentive for completing the courses. The ultimate way, which is very difficult to measure unless you have other processes in place, and I'll get into what those is people applying more of a detective versus a preventive approach, right? You can't tell users do not click on any links because that's not how the way we function. But are they able to detect on which links to click and which links to not to click, right? Are they reporting phishing emails that are legitimate, right? People become very scared and they start reporting everything. Obviously, if they're doing that, they don't have the right amount of awareness. They're not looking at the right indicators. So that relies a lot on your incident reporting, your incident management processes. What details do you capture from your help desk when somebody calls to report an incident? So that information also could help you indicate if your program is working or not.
Excellent. And thanks again, Michaela, for posting some more resources in our chat. I'm going to go to Fleetus next.
Yeah, so very similar to what Theo was saying, is you'll see the behavioral change because of the way they interact Do they come to security more? Are they willing to engage with security? Are they speaking up and becoming champions? We talk about security champions in the software development lifecycle, but we've also talked about it in security awareness of having someone in the business who can translate the technical terms that we're pushing out. Sometimes we try to be bilingual. We fail sometimes at being able to speak business and tech, and having someone who can translate what we're saying. The next is helping them understand that it starts at home. So the behavioral changes when they say, I saw this at home, this is what I did. And they're storytelling. They come into the office and say, hey, did you get this poll scam? The tolls. I got this weekend. This is what I did with it. Or like I like to tell people I had 2 interns. How do I teach them? Like, how do you know when to open the front door? How do you know not to touch a hot stove? How do you know to tie your shoes? It comes with either someone formally training you falling victim to it, or official training. So you get the formal training, you get the informal, and then you just get the school of hard knocks. So helping them learn that what they're applying at work starts from the time they wake up until they go to bed. Even though security is 365, security is the 12 to 14 hours you're awake, because you're always inundated with notifications on your personal devices, your work devices, and now even in your cars because of IoT, Internet of Things, being more prevalent in every piece of our life.
Love it. Jamil, any thoughts?
Yeah, as an OKR master, actually, I am always looking at things through an outcome-oriented lens. So for me, of course, the training's main goal should be the real-world impact. If we see reduction in real incidents, so it means our gamification succeed. The pitfall might be about the context. The context of the training should reflect our organization, our domain. If it just leads to rewarding participants just participating in a cybersecurity training, it can create a kind of false security sense, maybe. So it should be tailored for the organization itself, the domain itself, to create the real effect.
Excellent points. Love that. Michaela?
Yeah, just to build on what everyone else has already said, really. So if we sort of step back from it a moment, sort of before the training actually happens, one of the things I think when you're designing is to be really clear, what does the business actually need out of this, and be clear on that from the outset, and then figure out, okay, so if that's what we need to do, how are we going to achieve it? What processes do we already have in place that we could potentially measure the changes? So all of that sort of figuring out at start, so that you can then do your sort of before and then after the training year after, and then say 3 months down the line, measuring again. So for me, those are really the things to be focused on when it comes to measuring. So you can always find something. And if you're struggling to find something, then there's always this community here, or others who can share what they've learned about metrics as well.
Great points. Thanks for that. And Mitchell.
I think I'm going to start with the pitfall. I think one of the pitfalls when you talk about measure, you automatically go to numbers, right, and metrics. And I think relying on those metrics is a pitfall, right? You can make numbers say, I have a math background. You can make numbers say whatever you want, right? You can make the metric look any way that you need it to make people feel good about the situation. But really, and combining with what everybody was saying, it's hearing the vernacular, it's hearing the storytelling, it's people coming from home. I think what Fleetus has said again, coming from home and saying, hey, I was engaged, I had this happen, I got this text from home, or I had a scam, and having these conversations. When you start hearing that, and that becomes a natural part of the business and what you hear, I think that's one way to really measure and see that security is having an impact and is part of not just the security team's job, but everybody's job and function.
Yeah, I can't agree more. I mean, I think the idea of outcomes is, I've mentioned this in some of our past sessions, when it comes to security training and security awareness training, a lot of people say, well, security awareness training is not that effective. And sometimes I hear that when they haven't really been thinking it through very well, because to me, the awareness part of security training for everyone is making sure they're aware they can be targeted and that they are vulnerable. That's where that ends. The rest is education, right? How do I actually recognize when I'm being attacked and when I'm being or when I've been compromised, and maybe I have to report an incident that's actually happened. So those are the things I think we have to start focusing on. And I think it's also important to realize that you can try to measure the results of in terms of reducing incidents, but there are a lot of variables that go into your entire business that result in an incident. And if you can correlate incidents that are caused by an individual user, for example, then yeah, it makes sense that you can perhaps track that and look at that for an outcome. But if you can't tie a particular incident to a particular individual, it can be very hard to rely on reducing incidents to prove whether or not training is working or gamification of training is working. So those are things I think we have to sort of think through as well on an individual organization basis, because every organization has different risks that they have to deal with, right? So I think with that, I'm going to take a moment just to represent ClickArmor's interest in all this, basically as a sponsor for the of these sessions. I wanted to just let you know that I'm pretty passionate. You probably can tell about this sort of stuff. But the reason is that I have been using gamification for 5 to 10 years almost. And actually, even before that, I think I wrote my first HTML-based Jeopardy game back in, I don't know, 2010 or something. But it all comes from my experience in the risk management world, where I would see risk assessments that really said that everything's good except the things we can't control, which are the human things. And that's what I thought we need to kind of be able to address those. So I've been blogging and podcasting on the Shared Security podcast. If you haven't heard it, we just did our 400th episode last week. But I hear also concerns about using games in teaching a serious topic like security. And I get that. But you have to realize that humans are not really like firewalls, right? They have emotions, they have a bad day, and they don't always remember something just because you train them on it, right? So that's why we created ClickArmor as a way to engage people and to make them aware that they are a target, but also to help them focus on concepts that are hard for them to get into if they're trying to disengage with it because they don't think it's useful. So that's why a little bit of that cognitive load that comes from having people do interactivity is actually a benefit in this case, because they start to get more engaged. Their brains actually start to look at what's going on here. You can put them in some kind of risk scenario. So the 5 benefits that I often talk about when it comes to gamification of cybersecurity are engagement. Everybody knows games are somewhat more engaging, at least to get people on board. Then when you're providing instant feedback, you can help them remember and retain knowledge. And then you can motivate them to repeat exercises, whether it's because of the leaderboard or just that they want to get something right. It's an achievement, right? But you can also put people in a safe environment for practicing different kinds of threats. And that's how ClickArmor was actually built, to be able to do all these things. And at the end result is to be able to provide metrics for risk management and be able to see how people are doing, what their proficiency is in different areas in a way that's scalable, flexible, and works in terms of efficiency and education. So those are the things that I wanted to just cover and let you know that ClickArmor does, and that's why I'm so focused and passionate on gamification for cybersecurity. So if you want to learn more about ClickArmor, I'd love to be able to chat with you, show you what we can actually do, and maybe pick a problem that you're dealing with and see how we might solve that using gamification. So with that, I'm going to go to our poll results and just sort of do a quick review of the questions. And if you can read these, which gamification elements do you feel would be most effective for increasing employee participation? So I think the options here are interactive activities that drive engagement. And what's the next one? Recognition. So we talked a lot about recognition and giving people the the visibility that they're doing well. And a lot of the other elements were fairly even. So I'll just review the poll results, and then I'll ask the panelists and the audience to let us know if any of these results are surprising or how you would explain some of them. So the second poll was, which primary behavior changes would you realistically aim to achieve as the most important result? So you only got to choose one of these. So in the end, it was measurable reduction in security incidents. And again, I said that's something that's you're going to have to spend some time trying to attribute individual incidents that are caused by a human, to a person, and that would be kind of an ideal way to be able to say, look, we've trained the people using this method, and it's reducing risks. Finally, what is the biggest challenge your organization would face when implementing gamified security? So difficulty changing, sorry, what am I cannot even read my own things. If anybody else can enter what that actually says, or I'll just exit my sharing and get a bigger view of it. 1 second here. It was difficulty designing engaging game elements, or difficult measure. Yeah, I'm lost. It was, yeah, difficulty designing engaging game elements. So that's something that, I would actually encourage people to reach out to us for, because that's one thing that we actually do a lot of. So with that, I think we've gone through all of our questions, but I'd like to ask the panel and the people in the chat, what surprised you, or how would you kind of explain some of those results that we just saw? You can just raise your hands on the panel and let me know if you have a comment on any of those. So Fleetus, you can go first.
Yeah, so not really a surprise per se, but from the panel's diversity here, it's also nice to see the diversity of the crowd. So I like seeing that organizations are not all in the same boat. So I like that there was a mix, because I think Michaela said this before, and I think I've heard Theo, everyone's culture is different. Everyone's going to have a different culture. Most lines of businesses will have different cultures. So you have to understand what your enterprise culture is, and then you have to understand what the culture is of certain lines of business. Is it conservative? Is it outgoing? That allows your gamification to be tailored. Is it black and white for a legal department, or is it more colorful for an outgoing communications team who's looking for more, I don't know, AI-based generation and memes, et cetera. So there's always stuff that comes along with that. So not really that surprise. I just want to say I appreciate the panel's diversity. I appreciate the audience diversity, because each of us brings something to the table because we have a different lens that we're looking at the problem.
Really well put. Thanks very much. Michaela.
Thank you. So I'm going to build, I think, on what Felix has just said, in that I think you can go beyond looking at understanding the culture that you're then designing into, to the actual individual's motivation. So I don't know if anyone here is familiar with Reese motivation profiles. Anyone in the
Doesn't ring
crowd,
a bell,
maybe? No? Okay, I'll put a link in then. But using them, there's 16 core motivators to actually create your learner personas that represent the people in your organization, and making sure that you try and design to the different things, the different game mechanics that they will actually appreciate. So for example, I don't particularly like, aggressive games where, we're out for somebody to lose. It's not really that competition thing, doesn't do it for me. Whereas, a nice cooperative game where we're perhaps doing some sort of quest, that does. So just recognizing that different people find different things fun. And I think it's just another level on what Fleetus was saying there.
All right. Who else? Oh, Mitchell had a hand up.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I thought it was interesting in your second poll question, nobody had selected decreased losses. And I think that if that question was aimed at executives, and I would think that the answer, the responses would be somewhat flipped around, right? Where there's a different, because of the people that are here, right? The people that are involved in this particular webinar, and what they're looking for, their goals may be different than, let's say, the overall education goal that an executive who may be trying to support, right, gamification or security awareness in general may have as a goal.
That's excellent. Yeah, I think I gave my opinions as we opened each question, but I want to thank everybody for joining us today. We're just about at the top. I'll give everybody in the panel a round table just to see if there's anything more they wanted to share. But I would just like to ask people to reflect on, what we learned today, and what will you do differently as a result of, what we discussed. Is there something you're going to change in your plan or in your communication, or just try a new idea? That would be great for us to hear, and how you have planned to make a change in your operations. So all of these sessions are recorded, and we do post notifications in advance, and we post notifications when the recordings are available in the Cybersecurity Awareness Forum community. So you're welcome to join there. I'd love to generate more discussion like we've had here with chat amongst members. And right now we're mostly using it for these notifications, but there's a lot of opportunity there. And we have over 200 members now in that community. So there should be lots of fertile ground there for discussion on any topics. That said, I've come up with a next session, and if people want to stick around after we just close this recording, I'm happy to chat about what might make good future topics after the next one, or anything that we might want to change about how we operate here. So keep that in mind. So the next session will be October 29th at 1 p.m. Number 63, bridging the gap between compliance-based and risk-based security training. So we sort of all understand, there's checkbox exercises and there are risk-based exercises. So how will we go from the checkbox to more relevant addressing of risks? So I hope you can join us next time for that session, but I'll give our panelists one last time around. I'll start with Mitchell this time.
Well, Scott, thank you for the opportunity to be part of the panel. What I'll take away from it again, and sort of this mindset of that there is no one way to do gamification, right? And you have to find the method or methods that work for your organization, right? And be flexible and try different techniques, whether that's a competitive method or cooperative method, as Michaela said as well. And make sure, because you want to be able to engage everybody.
Thanks very much. I appreciate that. Michaela?
Yes. Oh, I'm just trying to think what to pick as one thing. Okay, so community, everyone's got so many great ideas, lots of people doing great things out there. I'm just, if it's okay, just going to plug Sententia Gamification, because I've been on a journey with them for the past few years and learned so much. They have a Friday night game garage that you can literally go and play and try different things. So yeah, I highly recommend that. And please, if you want to create a game, enter the competition. Cyberlity's not Cyberlity, sorry, it's a Cybersex Games competition. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for mentioning Sententia. Actually, I can't even remember the name of the woman that started that.
Monica.
Monica, yeah. She's actually one of the podcasts that I listened to before I even created ClickArmor. It was one of the inspirations for creating it. So I need to reach out to her again. I think I had contacted her a long time ago, but thanks for that.
Yeah.
Theo, any last thoughts?
Yes, thank you, Scott, and thank you for the esteemed panelists. I learned also some additional information as well from everybody sharing. I appreciate your thoughts and ideas. Remember that cybersecurity awareness programs are a valuable asset for any organization, small or large. Even if you have a comprehensive security awareness program, gamification can help reinforce these messages. Remember, the reason why we do awareness training is because we're not exposed to cyber threats all the time. So the training has to become a little bit more routine. So we could adopt those behaviors we want the users to adopt, and eventually, get a reward, right? Your first reward is, yes, your badge, but your ultimate reward is I did not fall victim to an attack.
Very well put. Thanks very much. Fleetus and then Jamila.
Yeah, as always, I appreciate the feedback. For those who want, and then Scott put on the last slide, continue to network with this panel and the people that you've met in this community. There's a lot of stuff that we can learn from, and when in doubt, just reach out. It's just what we tell our users. So the same thing applies to you. There are many people who are trying to implement, and if a topic we said today sounds interesting to you, let the panel know. We have materials. We can show you how we got it off the ground, how we got buy-in, how we got support, because all of those are the biggest problems that most of us face is getting buy-in, either dollars, people to do these initiatives. So reach out.
Thanks very much. And Jamila?
Thank you very much. My takeaway is, yeah, gamification turns passive learning to active problem solving. And when we solve a problem, it sticks with us. So everyone will be aware of they can be a target, and that will help to create an employee culture ready to respond. And that's really important, I think. And thank you, everyone, and thank you very much.
Thank you all. And yeah, as I said, next session is on the 29th. It was in the slides earlier, but reach out to me and watch for posts. We'll be posting that very soon as well. So I want to thank everybody for joining us, the very active chat, and hope you'll join us again next time. And just remember, my mantra is engaged employees reduce risks. So stay with us, and we'll talk to you next time.